Hello, everyone. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today's Friday. Normally, Friday is when I discuss Force powers. But if you would indulge me, today I would like to do what I sometimes do on Friday, which is speculate and discuss predictions, speculations, expectations. However, before I begin, let me be very clear and throw out that great hashtag, speculate responsibly. Okay, I am going to responsibly speculate about the future of Star Wars, particularly the future of Star Wars on film. And at the moment, it's a shot in the dark, because none of us really know what's coming down the road. The future of Star Wars films has been a bit bumpy, in that we do not fully understand what's going to be coming our way. Because there seems to be a lot of trouble getting things off the ground. Now, there are Star Wars films scheduled to be released in December of 2022, December of 2024, and December of 2026. Those films were originally going to be overseen by the Game of Thrones showrunners Benioff and Weiss. However, they departed the project. As far as we are aware, those dates still stand. But if those films will come out remains to be seen. And if they do come out, who is in charge, we have no idea. Now, there have been rumored names, and there have been discussions of names. And I don't want to get too much into it because all of the information is coming from The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and other sources. Deadline, but not from Lucasfilm. Now, the announcement of Benioff and Weiss and the Star Wars films scheduled for those previously mentioned release dates, that information came directly from Lucasfilm, as well as information regarding the departure of Benioff and Weiss, which yet again claimed to be a scheduling conflict. Now, in the discussion of these Star Wars films, and with writers and directors and producers being hired and then let go, which seems to be occurring quite frequently, sorry, I have drawn a complete blank on what I was saying. It's hard to really get any concrete idea of what's coming, because Lucasfilm has been Lucasfilm does not say a lot about these things. As I said, most of this information comes from other sources. Now, what I was trying to say was that in all of these cases, when someone leaves, it is either scheduling conflicts or creative differences. Now, I do not want to be an irresponsible fan and go into, oh, it's probably because of this and that and this and that. Because I don't really know, other than they've had a hard time. Now, really quickly, let me discuss the films that are supposedly coming. There is the trilogy, the 2022, 2024, and 2026 trilogy. There is an untitled Star Wars trilogy that Rian Johnson is supposedly making. And there is an untitled Star Wars film that Kevin Feige, president of Marvel, would be producing. Now, as far as I'm aware, Rian Johnson seems more committed to making a sequel to Knives Out. Knives Out was probably my second favorite film of last year. And based on what I've seen, if he never comes back to Star Wars, I think he's going to be just fine. Now, I would like to see him tackle more Star Wars. Especially if he were given free rein to explore ideas, characters, locations, and events that we do not know anything about. I'm all for that. But given the success of Knives Out, given his Best Original Screenplay Oscar nomination, I think Rian Johnson is going to be just fine if he doesn't come back to Star Wars, and I'm not holding my breath for those Star Wars movies. Now, the ones that are scheduled to be released from 2022 to 2026, given that everything in Hollywood is pretty much shut down right now because of the pandemic, those dates might get bumped. Because in order to meet those dates, they would have to be working on it right now. Possibly even filming it right now. Or later this year. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen. At least not at the moment. Maybe those dates could still be met. So that's kind of the general picture we're looking at. Now, Kevin Feige who is going to be producing a Star Wars film, was, I believe, just promoted at Marvel. And so maybe that film might not happen if he's busy overseeing, or rather being given more responsibility with the MCU. So that is what is known, or rather what is not known, about the future of Star Wars. So we're looking at supposedly 7 films that have been announced. And the question of will any of those see the light of day remains to be seen. I still believe we are going to get more Star Wars movies. But I think that the current situation we're in with the pandemic has not helped the situation. And Lucasfilm has also had a very difficult time. They've had a hard time with Lucasfilm keeping creators. I don't know the reasons. I do not want to be irresponsible and try to guess at their reasons. Now, also, something that needs to be addressed. Bob Iger, the I believe the CEO, I always get my business terms mixed up. The CEO of Disney has stepped down. He's retired. Now, he is still staying on in other creative capacities at Disney. He has stepped down, and Bob Chapek has now become the CEO of Disney. Now, one could argue that Kathleen Kennedy's tenure as the president of Lucasfilm has been a bit rocky. I don't entirely agree. I think she's done a fine job. And most importantly, in terms of business, Bob Iger was very pleased with her work. The question now, with Bob Iger stepping down and Kathleen Kennedy being in his good graces, does that mean that she will step down soon at Lucasfilm? I think it's a possibility that within a year or two, she may step down as president of Lucasfilm. And as I said, I think she's done a great job. But I do think that it's probably time for new leadership. And also, I do not believe, and I love Kathleen Kennedy, I don't believe she's best suited to this kind of job. Kathleen Kennedy has produced, get this, 10 movies that have been nominated for Best Picture, as well as producing many more movies. She, in my opinion, should go back to that. Because I don't necessarily think that her position as a producer was the best for putting her in the position of president of Lucasfilm. That being said, I think she's done a fabulous job. But it has been a little tricky, given that she seems to have a hard time keeping creators in place. Now, I'm not willing to cast any blame on anybody, but I do wonder, will she step down soon? Since Bob Iger is no longer there to, I don't want to say protect her, but be her biggest cheerleader. Because he really is. Because from a business standpoint, she has done fabulous. And honest to goodness, money talks in those circles. As I said, in terms of what has made it to the screen, I think Kathleen Kennedy has done a great job. In terms of money, in terms of what's made it onto the screen, I think she's done a great job. I am more of the opinion that a movie, and therefore the creators behind those movies, should be judged on the basis of what makes it to the screen, not on the shenanigans that happen behind the scenes. If we were to judge movies and creators based on what happened behind the scenes, we would despise The Godfather and Francis Ford Coppola. We would hate George Lucas and Star Wars. We would, yet again, despise Coppola for Apocalypse Now. We would hate Gone with the Wind, so on and so forth. Great movies that we would not have liked if we had judged them based on what happened behind the scenes. So, in short, I don't know what the future of Star Wars will bring us. I suspect there will be some shakeups in the leadership. And I just hope that they are able to get creators to stick around. One last thing. There have been a few fans who have suggested that Dave Filoni, the head honcho at Lucasfilm Animation, should be the president of Lucasfilm. I do not believe that his skill set has demonstrated his ability to do such a thing. What I mean is, I do not believe he has demonstrated anything to be a president of Lucasfilm. Now, he has done some tremendous work. Work that I do not believe puts him in the right position to be the president of Lucasfilm. He has done some work that is great. It's a great storytelling, but truth be told, I think a president of Lucasfilm needs something I don't know. It's a difficult debate, but I don't think that Dave Filoni has done enough and has experienced enough things. No, I'm trying to think of a way to word this. I don't believe Dave Filoni is qualified to be president of Lucasfilm. I do believe that he should continue being a big creative force. But given his episodes of The Mandalorian, which I enjoyed very much, but I didn't love, I think that he's not exactly in the best position to be in charge of the whole company. That's just me. You may disagree, and that's fine. So I respectfully disagree with the idea of putting him as president of Lucasfilm, but I think we need someone who is more experienced with such things. But that's a whole other can of worms right there that I don't want to get into now. Okay, we're going to take a short break. When I come back, I'm going to give you a very quick idea of what I would like to see in the future of Star Wars. Just one fan speculating responsibly. Hello there, this is Brennan Marr, host of Page Turners They Were Not, a Star Wars podcast. And I'm here to tell you about Anchor. Anchor is the best way to make a podcast. Why is that? Well, first off, it's free. Yes, you heard me right. Anchor is free. Anchor has all the tools you need to make a podcast from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you on various platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money from your podcast. And get this, with no minimum listenership. That means you can make money even if no one listens to your podcast. That, of course, is not ideal, as Anchor will allow you to spread your podcast, bring in more viewers, and you can make more money because of it. Everything you need to make a podcast is in one place on Anchor. If you're interested, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you, and may the Force be with you. Okay, we are back. All right. There has been some discussion among the fans, you've probably seen it trending, of making, bringing Ben Solo back, making more movies featuring him. Now, let me just explain Twitter really quick. Just because something is trending on Twitter doesn't mean there's actually that many people who want to see it. Now, I would be up for seeing more Ben Solo in some way, shape, or form. But I do not think that Lucasfilm, or any creative group for that matter, should make decisions based on what's trending on Twitter. Because I do not think that that is a way to make a movie, especially if one were to turn to Twitter and other social media platforms and say, that's what the fans want, I think they would be sorely mistaken, because most of the fans are not made as vocal on those platforms. When something is trending on Twitter, that does not mean that every fan and their mother wants to see that. So, just to make, I'll make it short. I do not believe they should make their decisions based on what is popular on social media platforms, because I do not believe that those platforms properly represent fans and moviegoers as a whole. And I would hate for them to make decisions on that basis. Okay, now as for Ben Solo, I would rather see, personally, an animated series about Ben Solo and Luke Skywalker at Luke's Jedi Academy. That way, you could have Mark Hamill voice his character, because as we know, Mark Hamill is a fantastic voice actor, and you wouldn't have to worry with that pesky de-aging technology. Now, to be fair, you could have a series about a younger Ben Solo that's live action, movies or a series, and not need to de-age anybody. If it's only set a few years prior to Attack, if it is only set a few years prior to The Force Awakens, you wouldn't need to de-age anybody. Unless, of course, we're talking if such a series or a movie didn't come out for another 5 to 10 years, then you might have to. But I'm not really a fan of the de-aging technology. So, I would not prefer that they didn't do that. I think an animated series would make more sense, because then you wouldn't have to worry about that. And that's just me, because I do want to see the further adventures of Luke and Ben Solo back when things were better, and get some of the time period between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens filled in a visual media. Sorry, medium. That's the singular. That's what I would prefer to see. And now that the saga is complete, they can fill in those gaps. Because they couldn't before, because you really had to wait till the story was complete. And then you could start filling in the gaps without stepping on any toes. Now, as for Ben Solo in a movie, I would go see it, yes. But I think they are going to stay away from that stuff for now. I think they're going to start telling, and I think they should start telling, New stories about new characters in new locations, like what they're doing in the High Republic uh, literary uh, initiative. Novels, comics, those kind of things. I'm very pleased with that. Because I think that is what they should be doing. As for animated series, there are rumors floating, but I don't know how true they are. Or rather, I don't know how much truth they contain. About an animated series that is kind of going to serve as a sequel to Star Wars Rebels. About Ahsoka and Sabine looking for Ezra, or something to that effect. I'm all for it. But I think right now, as far as the films are concerned, I think they need to focus on telling new stories, and that includes getting rid of, or moving away, I should say, from the legacy characters. Because I think that created a bit of a headache. So, really, I don't know what we're going to get in the future. But I want it to be new stories with new characters in new time periods. The Star Wars saga is huge. There is so much they could tell. I think The Mandalorian did a great job of taking us away from what we know and telling us stuff we don't know. And I'm hoping that moving in the future, they'll continue in that direction. I think they should occasionally have characters we know show up. Or maybe not characters, but ideas. I mean, we know that Ahsoka is going to be appearing. I don't think they should make too much of a habit of that. So that they can tell the stories they want to tell without having to worry about the characters that we already know and love. Give us something new. So, to sum it all up, I want something new. So those are my thoughts on kind of the uncertain future of Star Wars. There isn't much that I can concretely say, simply because it has not been set in stone what is coming down the pike. And this current pandemic has certainly not helped that situation any. So I just want something new. And I trust Lucasfilm. I've been pleased with all their new movies, the Disney era Star Wars movies, and I'm excited for what's coming. I'm particularly excited about this High Republic series, because finally we'll be getting stories about something new. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.